There are a lot of arguments against the Red Sox bringing Alex Bregman in. I'm here today to prove those wrong. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and in today's video, we're talking about why the Red Sox need Alex Bregman and why a lot of the hesitation surrounding Alex Bregman may be a bit falsely placed. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot of people who have a lot of reasons why they don't want to sign Alex Bregman, so I think the best way to go about why the Red Sox do need to sign him is to walk through those counter arguments one by one, and the number one thing I see probably the most of, in my opinion, is that the Red Sox shouldn't be signing guys out of the prime years of their career, and Alex Bregman isn't in that category. Now, hypothetically, you're absolutely right? The best a baseball player is going to be statistically is between their ages 27 and 29 season. Alex Bregman is not in that conversation. My argument to that point, though, is that the Red Sox don't really need to be focusing on players strictly in their prime. In fact, I think a player just outside of their prime actually could do them a lot of good. And a big reason for this is because they have already a ton of players on this team, specifically positionally, who are either in their prime right now or are walking straight towards it. Taking a look at the current roster, at catcher, you've got Connor Wong, who's 28. His backup is even younger. Tristan Casas at 25. Vaughn Grissom right now is your second baseman. He's 24. Shortstop, you've got Story. He's 32. Devers is 28. Then you move to the outfield, and you've got Duran, who's 28, Rafaela, who's 24, and Abreu, who's 26. The Red Sox have one position player who is over the age of 30 years old. Every other position player the Boston Red Sox have is either in their statistical prime or going towards their statistical prime, and this doesn't even include players like Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Christian Campbell, who will be making impact, hopefully, plays for the Red Sox this season. I don't think the Red Sox necessarily need to include another prime year player for this team to succeed. In fact, I actually think a player who's just on the outside of their prime but is still a statistically impact guy like Alex Bregman could be exactly what the Red Sox are looking for, because he brings in a couple of things that these players just simply don't, and that is proven veteran experience. Yes, that is still an important trait for Major League Baseball teams, and to be honest with you, I don't know who has better proven veteran experience than Alex Bregman. I mean, that dude basically came into the league and won, 7 straight ALCSs or ALDSs or whatever it is. The dude has a ton of postseason experience. I would say more than 99.9% of baseball players in the major leagues. How important is that going to be for these young players to lean on as this Red Sox team starts to try and legitimately compete in this thing? I think it's going to be extremely important. No, he's not in his prime. That doesn't mean he can't still be impactful. He can be a proven consistency in this lineup while giving these guys a shoulder to lean on. On top of that, now we look at the statistics, right? Because everyone's going to point to, well, he's declining right now. And obviously, if you look at just OPS plus, the answer is, yeah, he is declining statistically, but I think we also need to dive a bit deeper into that, because looking at his OPS plus alone isn't really the full story, because over the last 3 years, yes, that OPS has decreased, but the reason why is really interesting, because outside of the OPS plus, the only thing that's really decreased over the last 3 years has been his on-base percentage. The average has stayed the same, the slug has stayed the same, home runs are actually kind of trending up, not crazy, but they are getting bigger every year. RBIs, right, that's kind of a situational statistic. On top of that, you got doubles that have gone nowhere, hits are all in the same ballpark, so you're telling me that this dude is on a downward trajectory just because of his on-base percentage? Okay, this is also someone who's been really solid with his on-base percentage throughout his entire career. You're going to sit there and tell me he's never going to be able to regain his on-base percentage throughout the majority of a contract he has with the Boston Red Sox? I just don't think that's the case, and I also think looking at his 2024 season, he had a bit of an injury, and he had a really bad month once he was off that injury. Outside of that, he was the exact same Alex Bregman we've seen over the last few years. His WAR has been above a 4 in those last 3 seasons as well. So yes, there's some regression, but I also think there's explanations as to why that regression is happening outside of, oh, this dude's just getting older. It's just who he is at this point. Don't really care that he's not 28 years old. I don't really care that he's not 26 years old. What I care is what he's going to bring to the Red Sox. And if you take a look at every single World Series team the Red Sox have had over the last 21 years now at this point, every single one of them has had a steadfast veteran in that lineup that helps them achieve those dreams. 2018, you had JD Martinez. Your World Series MVP was Steve Pearce. 2013, basically that entire team was past their statistical primes, but some examples, Shane Victorino was past his statistical prime. Johnny Gomes, David Ortiz was past his statistical prime at that point, right? If we're just strictly basing this off of the years that a player is good. 2007, Mike Lowell was your World Series MVP, right? You had Manny past 30 years old. You had Tech. There were a ton of players in every single one of these World Series runs that were significant veteran presences, and that's exactly who Alex Bregman should be. I don't think the Red Sox need another player who's entering or in their prime. I think what they need is someone who's been through their prime, who is still producing and could help other players achieve the best they could possibly be, and that's exactly who I think Alex Bregman is, but that's not the only argument. We're going to counterpoint today. The second biggest argument I see a lot when it comes to Alex Bregman is the conversation that they simply cannot give Bregman 8 years. That contract is going to age poorly. And you know what? I agree. I'm not going to counterpoint that. I think giving Alex Bregman 8 years is way too long of a contract for the Red Sox to take on. However, what I am going to say is I don't think Alex Bregman signs an 8-year deal. I don't think that at this point in his market, he's going to get that contract. If he is going to get it, he would have already signed already. Everyone in the business is saying teams are way lower year-wise than Alex Bregman is, and I'll bet you something, if the teams hold out long enough, Alex Bregman's the one who's going to end up bending the knee here, and all of a sudden, the conversation goes from you can't give him 8 years to you can't give him 5 years. I think that's a much different conversation. Even 6 years, I think, is a much different conversation than 8. Yes, again, you're getting him through his age 31 through 36 season, but the Red Sox are in a unique position here. They are, believe it or not, a big market team, right? You can afford to take on a kind of a salary that is going to drop off in the back end when you are able to spend the kind of money the Red Sox are able to spend. Not that they've been spending it, but my entire point is if you get a 6-year contract with Alex Bregman and the first 4 of them, you are using him and he is a legit impact bat. And then the last 2, well, maybe he falls off a little bit. Maybe he doesn't look the same. Maybe he's a sort of replacement level player at that point. Well, honestly, the Red Sox, that shouldn't prohibit them from spending. It shouldn't hamstring them from improving this team, especially because during the time of that contract, Trevor Story's contract falls off, Masataka Yoshida's contract falls off, and by the time this one ends, based on how the roster is constructed right now, the Red Sox will just have Rafael Devers making significant money in the back end of that contract. There's really no risk, in my opinion, taking on a 6-year deal. You're probably going to get 4 really impactful years. Maybe you get 5, and then maybe the 6th and the 5th or whatever aren't incredibly impactful. But if you can compete and get far into a playoffs during those 4 years, I think that's absolutely worth it, especially when you're the Boston Red Sox and can afford to eat a back end of a contract to get the really good parts in the front half. I just don't really understand the reasoning as to why fans specifically should be like, well, I don't know, guys. The back end of this contract doesn't make a ton of sense money-wise. It's not our money. Who cares? If the front end of this contract is going to pay off for the Red Sox, they should do it every single time. Now, one of the other big arguments I see a lot about Alex Bregman is, hey, he's coming in to play second base. I don't want it. He's going to block Christian Campbell. And you know what? He might actually do that. He might come in and he might block Christian Campbell. But at the same time, like I say every time when we talk about this, I think it's better to have too much talent on a roster and try and find room for all of these guys than it is to find out you don't have enough talent on a roster and go and have to find it outside of your roster, right? I think those are two entirely different situations. And Christian Campbell is an immensely talented player. He could and probably will be a solid Major League Baseball player, but we just simply don't know if that's the case. And we don't know how long it's going to take Christian Campbell to reach that solidified level. Hypothetically here, what's a better situation situation. Alex Bregman comes in. He's what he's been over the last 3 years, a solid major league player, a good defensive second baseman. Christian Campbell tears it up in AAA, and he's knocking on the door to come up, and you're sitting there trying to figure out how to fit these guys. Or you put Christian Campbell into the heart of Red Sox Nation. You say, this is going to be our middle of the order bat. We don't have any contingency plans outside of Vaughn Grissom. And Christian Campbell takes 6 months to figure himself out. He takes a full season to figure out how to be a legit everyday major league player. And you're scrambling to figure out where you're going to get that right-handed production. In my opinion, it's the Alex Bregman one every single time. You can find a spot to play Christian Campbell. He can play the outfield. He could play third base. He could play shortstop. There are positions throughout this team that he could play and avenues this team could take to fit him onto this roster. They can't magically pull Alex Bregman production out of someone who's simply not giving it to you if there's no one else on the roster that can do that. And that to me is the biggest argument. Honestly, I love Christian Campbell. I love Roman Anthony. I can't wait for these guys to truly make their marks at the major league level. But sitting here and saying the Red Sox shouldn't sign someone who we know for certain is going to have an impact on this roster simply because they could block one of our top prospects isn't a thing competitive teams think about. This is a thing that rebuilding teams think about. And the Red Sox have been rebuilding for far too long. You can't continue that mentality. You need to start to place yourself in the mindset of a competitive team. And I think that's the difference between blocking Christian Campbell and going out and just simply relying on Christian Campbell to be your everyday player. Plus, I think there's a pretty good idea that Alex Bregman isn't going to be a second baseman for the majority of his contract. My opinion is that once they do sign him, they're going to try and move a Willie Abreu to either fit Christian Campbell in the outfield, or they're going to trade Masataka Yoshida at some point during 2025 or after the 2025 season and just make Rafael Devers third base, right? You can still fit all of these players in here while still making Alex Bregman a priority, and I think it just simply has to be. Plus, I also see all the time, 2017, this guy's a cheater. We don't want him in the Red Sox uniform. Guys, I got to be honest with you, I'm over the Houston Astros thing. I am, right? It's been almost a decade here. Cheating has been a part of baseball since its inception. It goes all the way back to tobacco spit on baseballs, making them absolutely lethal, all the way through greenies, amphetamines, 3-foot-tall players with no strike zones, the steroid era. There's always going to be someone in this game trying to cheat to make themselves better. Corked bats, there's 1,000 examples. Alex Bregman took it on the chin. He stopped being cocky. He became a really good player, and he's been solid ever since the allegations came out and the Astros were penalized. Second chances are important, especially with something like this, if he's proven that he can be a good player, a good teammate, and a good person outside of this cheating scandal. So I'm not even considering this in this conversation. Look, looking over all of the arguments against Alex Bregman, they're legitimate. There are legitimate fears that I think Red Sox fans have, legitimate hesitations. My point in this video is that there's also very legitimate counter arguments to you not wanting Alex Bregman here. And in my opinion, the pros simply outweigh the cons. And I really want Bregman in a Red Sox uniform. I think he brings exactly what the Red Sox are missing. And I think he does a whole lot to not only this lineup, but this organization in general. And I know that's a lot to put on a guy who's going into his age 31 season, but I genuinely think that this is the case. He has the experience. He has the consistency. He has the defensive awareness. He has the presence in the clubhouse. This is a dude who is kind of exactly what you're looking for to help bring these young players who are all entering their primes into their top levels. I absolutely love the idea. So I want you to let me know a couple of things in the comment section down below. One, if you were pro Bregman, did I miss anything in terms of your argument for bringing him here? If you are not pro Bregman, did this video sway you even a little bit? Are you sitting there saying, I was hard against Bregman to start this video, now I'm only slightly against Bregman, I could see why it could work? Or are you still very much against this signing? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, the best way to do that is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.